And good evening, Sword family. And welcome to the next edition of Tea Time. As you can probably tell, I am still sick, but I am a lot better than I was last week. So we're going to try this. I have my Jolly Ranchers and my tea to hopefully keep my throat moist enough that I don't yak while I'm on camera. Few comments to go through before we bring up our guests, so go ahead and run through those really well. Oh, look at that. First through the door is Rich. That guest looks kind of funny. Yeah, he does, but yeah. Joe, just a little, but we still love him. Yep. And Kitty is joining us. Evening, fellas. Evening, Kitty. And Rich greeting Kitty back. And Kitty said, hopefully Thesis cough will allow him to talk long enough to finish the interview. Yeah, we're going to try. I took a little bit of cough syrup right before I got it in the studio, so hopefully it'll help a little bit. And Trey is joining us. Evening, all evening, Trey. Didn't think you were going to be here tonight. And Donna is here, and Carl is here. And Donna greeting the Witzman dude, and Trey greeting Donna and Carl, and there's Foxy. She's late because she was in the kitchen in there. She was making some cinnamon roasted almonds to give to our neighbors. And Trey greeting Foxy, and Joe greeting everyone that has popped in. Oh, yeah, there we go. Little late as we had an adventure, then made roasted nuts. Yes. Nice. Well, I'm not the biggest fan of almonds. I like cashews, but it's a personal choice. And Donna greeting Foxy, and Donna. Donna saying, yummy, I love cinnamon. Cinnamon's pretty good. I can do cinnamon. She also has toffee, but the bottles are really, really old, so we might have to get some new bottles after Christmas. Inigo got to experience Walmart, carts, and people and all the noise, but he handled it well. Yes, he did. I was pretty impressed with him, actually. Trey used to make roasted chestnuts on the wrapping plate at work. Whatever works. Way to go, Inigo. Yes. I have consistently been proud of him just across the board, so busy enough that Foxy was edgy, and though he was nervous, he even let a stranger say hi and give him pets. Good. A little adventure helps keep you sane. I don't know about that. And now it's nap time in her lap. And Sarah's joining us. Hello, Sarah. Doesn't fit so good anymore. Yeah. He didn't fit so good when we first got him. Showtime. Foxy greeting Sarah. Don't forget to like and share, please. Sarah says, all my dogs in the past were too big for my lap, but thought they were lap dogs. And here is yes. All dogs are lap dogs. Sorry if I missed Facebook messages. Sarah greeting me. Trey greeting Sarah. And Sarah greeting Trey. I'm not even going to read that out loud. I'll just leave that up there. That was bad. Moist, yeah. Not many people love that word, but I think it's hilarious. Drives a lot of people nuts, yeah. In the kitchen with a wiggle finger, yep. Movie night got canceled due to sickness. Oh, I'm sorry. Seems like everyone is sick right now. It's going around. Coughing to death while not lagging. Well, yeah. Yes. See yourself out. All right. So now for my guest. He is a swordsman. He is an amazing ringmail artist. And he is a giant. Everyone, round of applause for Rich Asplund Jr.
Howdy, howdy, folks.
I just love that background. That's awesome. All right.
I was very happy when I found it.
I can imagine you were. And Joe is greeting you.
Where? That guy owes me money.
Yes, it's still playtime. I can hear the dog back there. Probably playing tug right now, but... All right, so... First question I always ask, because it is the Teahouse. What are you drinking?
I am a basic bitch. It's Bigelow Lemon Lift Tea.
Hey. It works.
Oh, yeah.
He's an ent. A tree out of his head.
So, funny story is when my youngest was just shy of a year old, right around a year old or so, my wife and I were thinking of going back to Gen Con, and we were thinking of cosplaying, putting my youngest dressed up as a hobbit and me dressing up as an ent.
All right, yeah.
And then just having them perched on my back.
Why not? So how did you first get into martial arts?
Unofficially, I was about 2 or 3, and it was the fault of the banana splits.
Okay.
The live action cartoon combination show. I think it was Hanna-Barbera that put it out. They had a Three Musketeers cartoon. So my sisters and I would actually fence with our hot dog skewers. We had hot dog skewers that, for a small child, they are the perfect size to be a rapier. Or rapier, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
Me pronunciation and bad today. So yeah, I was stabbed repeatedly by my sisters as a small child. Because at 2 or 3, you're not nearly as fast as a at that point in time they'd be 6 or 7, and then 11 or 12. So that's where it kind of started. And then, Saturday Kung Fu Theater, um, all sorts of uh, swashbuckling shows with pirates and things like that. And, um, I was more focused on um, the sword styles than anything else. But, eventually, started getting interested in, um, the weaponless ways, with, the various karate and kung fu movies and things of that nature. Um, half-ass trying to teach myself how to use a staff and other things. And then Highlander hit. And shortly after Highlander, um, ended up being able to get a nice bogan and fenced the air for many, many years. In early college, my buddy Vince was another Highlander fan, so he also had a bogan. So we would go to his place after school or whatever, or sometimes be like, screw it, we don't want to go to class today, we'll just go to his house anyway. And we'd sit there and we would fence in his front yard badly, but we would still fence in the front yard.
I think that's probably everyone.
Like, officially, I got involved with Nick through his nephew, who I have known since we were 5.
Damn.
So, and then got involved with the guild and, never looked back.
I think that's probably everyone's initial doorway into martial arts is either getting beat up or beating up your siblings with sticks, or in my case, those god-awful white plastic hollow swords that couldn't really stand more than 3 or 4 hits before they started to crack on you. And
so because of our Highlander fixation, Vince and I bought, and by bought, I mean like cases at a time, those stupid, crappy, extendable swords that, a lot of, you see them on as lightsabers more nowadays, but, they were like, $1 a piece or $2 a piece at the time. And we would keep, one of those stashed in our trench coats because, yes, at that point in time, we both wore trench coats. And then, we had this goofy synergy where it was almost like a quickening, where all of a sudden it's just like, reach in, pull the sword out, whip around, and of course, the other one's standing there like, I'm going to get you, and, we'd fight on campus or whatever, back in the day when you can do that kind of thing and not have a SWAT team, called on you.
Oh, Trey says, is Rich the first Teahouse guest to actually be drinking tea? Yes. Yes, he is.
Oh, I've got to turn Yggdrasil off for a second. Virtual background and done. In my Thor mug.
Yep.
Because Vikings.
Sarah, random fact, catnip tea for a human is a mild sedative. Yes. Well, most teas are at least mild sedatives. I mean,
catnip is one of the ingredients for a tea a friend of mine used to make me for my migraines. I think it was skullcap, lavender, lemon balm, catnip, I want to say there was one other thing that I can't recall off the top of my head, and then licorice root as a sweetener, and it did wonders. Sadly, she can't remember what that last ingredient is either.
Of course not.
But of course, that was almost 30 years ago.
And Joe loves the mug.
But
and
I figured I would start with tea.
Weapon? Yeah.
My preferred weapon? Longsword is what I practice with most. There is a curved 34 that Nick had, which basically was, for most people, it is more like a falchion, but for me, it was almost a perfect scimitar. So, probably, a longer blade. I'm starting to like some of the more flowing styles with the curved blade. But yeah, it's longsword's my go-to.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. And do you have a preferred style with that weapon, or is it just kind of a Franken style?
It is Meyer is misinterpreted by me.
Okay.
In fact, in 3 or 4 notebooks around here, I've got started and stopped numerous times. My explanation of my style, which is actually titled Meyer as misinterpreted by Richard Asplund.
Yeah. Most people interpret the masters that they follow. You're not going to get a perfect facsimile, even if you read all of the treatises. It's still going to be what you get out of it. So,
but you're also going to have people who are watching what you're doing, and they're going to be like, well, you're not doing X, you're actually doing Y.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, it's X studied from Y. This was brought down from it, but as you can see, it's slightly different, and mine's even slightly more different than that.
Mm-hmm.
But we all reconfigure the arts that we learn to work with our own body styles, our own comfort levels, our own flexibility.
Yep. Because your body's going to move differently than the person who wrote the book. So even if you have a perfect understanding of what you're reading, you're still not going to be doing it exactly like they did. No two people move the same way. So
not for long, and not without intention.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Chris is joining us. Hey, Chris. Chris doesn't stop by very often, so it's nice to see him. So do you find any ways to incorporate what you've learned through martial arts into your job or work?
Yes. So what I do for a living currently is I am a technology instructor for a law firm. So I am part of the IT department, but I don't do a lot of break-fix type things. I do a little, but most of what I'm doing is I'm showing people the right way to do things. I'm teaching people the way that our systems work and how to properly interact with that. So part of what I've learned in martial arts is how to instruct others.
Yeah.
And this actually harkens back to the days when I was studying to be an EMT. My EMT instructor gave me the two most important things I think any human needs to learn. And the first is any idiot can learn how to do something. You need to learn why to do something. If you
Mm-hmm.
can learn the why behind it, then you will always be able to go ahead and look it up. You'll always be able to um, properly apply what you need to a given situation,
Oh yeah.
or modify what you're doing to a proper situation. And the other is you learn one, you do one, you teach one.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what that means is you'll read it, you'll watch a demo, you'll listen to a lecture on it, then you'll actually try to do the physicality behind it by actually doing the movements for it, and then you'll try to pass that information on to another. In that, you learn what you didn't learn the first time around because other people are going to ask questions you didn't. And you're going to be
Yeah.
able to go ahead and come back further and see things from a different perspective. That influenced how I learned swords and,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you know, other, you know, arts martial. And of course that, helped me when, working on a help desk. That helped me when I was working in the injection molding factory, doing my job out there. And, that helps me as an instructor as well.
Yeah. I think once you understand the material, then it's kind of up to you to go out and find a student so that you can pass that on and, like you said, learn the things that you didn't learn the first time, because they're going to ask you questions and you're going to have to go, I don't know. Let me go find out.
And another thing in this day and age is you can just set up a camera or cell phone, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and record what you're doing and lecture your way through it, and then go back and you watch that lecture, and you're like, oh, hey, yeah, I didn't quite have this exactly right here. So, it's the old theory of high school athletic coaches and doing game films and being like, okay, so in this quarter right here, Johnson dropped the ball because of, um, but that same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're sitting there and you're giving it with that kind of mentality, because you have to know your material to a certain point before you can try to teach it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
And
made the
yeah,
mistake
it's just like,
of trying to teach something that I didn't actually know very well, and so that kind of was a wake up call that, oh, you can't actually teach this yet. You actually still have to go and do more research on your own before you can teach this person, even though they want you to teach them. But it wasn't something that I was particularly well versed in, so I had to go and do more research myself before I could even attempt to teach them, even though they were a complete beginner at the time.
well, a situation like that, you can still at least do a knowledge transfer, even if you can't do a
Yeah.
full teach. So you can start, with some of the history and the knowledge behind it. And again, by doing that, you're going to be able to see things from a different perspective as well.
Yeah. So you brought up Highlander, which is awesome. And anyone who was alive during the 80s and 90s is
There should
well
have been
aware of
only
that
one.
show. Yes.
No,
What?
I have to say I do like Endgame and
Yes.
the other one that Adrian Paul was in.
The source?
Not sure. It was basically 4 and 5 I liked. The rest of them that had him in it, it started getting a little weird for me even.
Yeah.
I loved the series. But of
Yeah.
course, the first one was excellent. I am versed enough in writing and everything involved with stuff like that to realize not my property, not my problem.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, hey, if Gregory Wyden and company wants things to go that way, it's their baby. They can do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be weird. I'm not going to like it. I'm still going to watch it. I'm not going to like it. Kind of a thing. But I mean, seeing how it advanced from its initial script to what we saw on the screen for the very first Highlander, night and day, completely different. I'm glad it got to the point that it did there. But again, things that went from there, it's... Sorry, I interrupted your question.
Well, just
I just
what
realized I
other
didn't take all my ADD medicine today. I'm sorry.
what other kinds of martial arts media did you consume that brought you to where you are now?
Okay. Of course, every flavor of Three Musketeers I can get my hands on.
Mm-hmm.
But I am not built for speed and finesse.
Mm-hmm.
So I realize that, yeah, the rapier is not my way. I am built
Mm-hmm.
for power and breaking crap. So that's why I kind of navigated towards Meyer. But Zorro,
Yep.
again, a lot more flamboyance and speed and dexterity than I've ever had, or even was delusional enough to think I could have. Um, 13th Warrior.
Yep.
Um, let's see what others. This is getting a little old school. But going back to the Errol Flynn Captain Blood.
I still need to watch
Which I
that.
would love if they remade that for modern audiences. Don't mess with the story a whole hell of a lot. Just do the movie justice as far as effects and everything like that goes. Um, uh, so many flavors of Robin Hood is not even funny. Uh, Conan, Kroll, Sword and the Sorcerer. Um, uh, Dragon Slayer. Uh, I think it was called Covington Cross. Very short-lived medieval sitcom from the 80s. Um, if I recall correctly, starring Jeff Conway of Taxi and Grease fame. I think it was Covington Cross. What else? Did I say Conan?
Yes. Now, which version?
Um,
Because
well, we'll stick with the Schwarzenegger version. Jason Momoa version wasn't bad. It just didn't feel quite right.
Yeah, I kind of got that inkling too. It was something was off.
Oh hell, that was another Howard property. Oh, was it Solomon Kane?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that.
I want to say the most recent version to hit the airwaves had James Purcell, I think was his name,
Yep.
who was the prince in oh crap, Knight's Tale.
Yes.
With Heath Ledger, which Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger was another good one.
Yes.
Or the short answer to this would be a lot.
Yeah. I've kind of found that's a lot of people when they find that entrance, they will consume anything that comes their way.
Oh yeah, and also anything Jason and the Argonauts, anything that was Sinbad as well.
Even when it's terrible. Because I have come across one, and only one, Chinese martial arts movie that was so incredibly god-awful that it got to the end of the movie, and I'm like, what the hell happened? I could not tell you a single plot point in this movie. I'm like, I kept waiting for it to get better, and then the credits rolled, and I'm like, the hell was that? It's called Little White Dragon.
One of those that it's a bunch of really cool ideas for scenes and no idea how to string them together. So they just filmed them in a random order and probably went, yeah, this works.
Yeah. So now I have a new question that I haven't asked anybody else. So you get to be the first person to answer this one. So this should be fun. What is your favorite on-screen sword fight?
No. Okay. Favorite on-screen sword fight. Ooh. The 90s Three Musketeers with Kiefer Sutherland.
Yep.
And Oliver Platt and Charlie and Chris
O'Donnell, Charlie Sheen. Yep.
O'Donnell. My brain was trying to say Christopher Young, but when they were about ready to start the duel, and Richelieu's men show up. I technically guess Roquefort's men show up, I guess, to go ahead and try to stop it, and just not a lot of realistic sword fighting, but great choreography and a great sense of flow to the entire thing. So that has to be in there just for pure show of it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, what else? Of course, because you put me on the spot, that's pretty much the only one that can really spring to mind at the moment. I'll probably wake up misty in the middle of the night going, "Oh yeah, this one," because that's the way my brain works.
Yeah, Trace has a good fight scene. Yeah. So what do you think of the first fight between Jack Sparrow and Will in the first Pirates of the Caribbean?
That's another good one. As far as, actually, no. Another one that comes to mind right now is going to be Highlander the series. I don't remember which season. My brain's wanting to say I think it was season 2 or 3 in the episode Duende.
I think that was 3. I think that was toward
But yeah, it's and that would be probably something that is going to be near and dear to Nick's dark little heart because of the use of the Spanish circle.
Yep. And they actually used it too.
Yeah. And then another one that I just find entertaining as all hell, and I believe this was season 2, is, at least I think it was season 2 that had Roddy Piper in it.
Yep.
The fight between Adrian Paul and Roddy Piper.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And yeah, it's fun because, you know, Piper really has no idea how the hell to use a sword.
Nope.
But he had great physicality. But I mean, with all the years of, you know, doing wrestling and sports entertainment in that way, he had the right physicality. He knew how to adjust and work in. Let's see what else. Some of the scenes in the Lord of the Rings trilogy weren't bad. A fun fight scene was the end of The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey at the very end, although points are taken off of that because they did not have my favorite song from The Hobbit in the frickin' movie. 14 birds and 5 fir trees, or I can't remember the exact name of it, but just because I'm oh shit, yeah. Bachman's right. How could I forget that?
Absolutely.
But I know something you do not know. What's that? I'm not left-handed. I know something you don't know either. Neither am I.
I cannot tell you how many times I will be sparring with a friend of mine who uses a rapier, and out of nowhere, we'll just start, I see you're using Benetti's defense against me. That whole scene.
Me and my buddy Vince used to do that with Boken.
Yeah. There was also a fairly short-lived TV series called Young Blades. That was about the Three Musketeers. If you've never seen it, go find it. It's only like 8 episodes long, but it's pretty good, I think.
That reminds me, I need to get back in and continue watching the BBC Three Musketeers that has Peter Capaldi as Richelieu, because that was looking pretty good.
There's also a 2001 Musketeer movie that was it was much more Asian in the fighting style, and the final fight scene between D'Artagnan and Rochefort was very much modeled after a fight from a Jet Li movie called Once Upon a Time in China. So,
yeah, that was
go
the
look
one
that one
with
up too.
Tim Roth as Featherway.
Yep.
That's what you're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, that is another one that is just masterfully done.
Oh yeah, it's not very historically accurate, but
another good one. Oh hell, what was it called? Basically, it was a movie. Oh, why can't I remember the name of the freaking movie? It was a movie that was basically based off of the legend of the Beast of Gévaudan. And had Mark Dacascos.
Okay, we gotta find the name of this because I gotta find this now.
Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Okay.
So, it's because you changed my title card, so it shows werewolf. For those who don't know, yes, I'm a werewolf enthusiast. In fact, that's one of the projects I need to do more and finish more up on. Is my Where the Where about different werewolf legends throughout the world. But of course, the Beast of Gévaudan is one of the biggest ones that a lot of folks know, even if they don't really know.
Yeah.
Even if they can't piece it together with the actual Beast of Gévaudan title. It's been borrowed and repurposed and put through so many things throughout the ages. It's not even funny. But it's incredibly well done. It's not the best movie in the world, but it has some pretty good action scenes built into it. So it's up there for one of my favorites out there. And though they're technically not sword fights, but if we're talking action fights, since Mark Dacascos came to mind. The John Wick series are beautifully done fight scenes, and I really can't wait for the Highlander reboot. And for those who don't know, Highlander's being rebooted. It is going to star Henry Cavill. And it might not be Connor McLeod. It looks like they're going to change a few things up, where he's a martial artist who's lived for hundreds of years and something like that. And but it is being directed by, I can't remember the gentleman's name to save my life right now, but the director of the John Wick movies. So if it's that kind of care being put into it, I really can't wait to see the the fight scenes. I have seen 2 episodes of The Witcher, and I like how Henry Cavill, handle the sword and work the physicality and all that stuff. Which, actually, thinking of Henry Cavill, reminded me of another great movie as far as sword fighting goes. Again, it goes back to a rapier style, but The Count of Monte Cristo, also written by Alexandre Dumas. But the one I'm thinking of is the one that has Jim Caviezel as Edmond Dantes, with Guy Pearce as Montego, and of course a very young Henry Cavill as Dantes' son, who everyone thinks is Montego's son.
Yeah.
And if I just spoiled the movie for you, it's been out for over 20 years, and the book has been out for over
Oh,
100 years.
watch it. So that was like 15 minutes of one question. So if you could
Sorry, was
fight
that?
one historical person, any historical person, doesn't have to be a martial artist, just historical person, who would it be and why?
Um, Joachim Meyer, simply because I would like to see his style firsthand. Because it's mostly what my style is based off of.
Yeah.
Um, that would probably be my number one answer there.
What did you think of the Meyer Square website that I showed?
There was a Meyer Square website that you showed.
Yeah, it was a while ago, but I'll see if I can actually bring it up here because I've been using
I
this every night to drill.
I apologize. The Meyer Cross, Meyer Square, whatever you want to call it, is a fantastic method to help with flexibility, to um, because with the way that Meyer Square works or Meyer Cross, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
is that there's so many ways to do it.
Yeah.
This looks familiar.
We come down here.
Um,
This is what I usually do.
um, Interesting.
Yeah. And then it goes back to thrust again.
Well, thrusting is nearly a four-letter word when you're dealing with longsword. Um, well, most of the dramatic styles, I should say. Um,
Yeah.
it's thrusting is more for when you are half sorting, and you've got the gap and you're trying to get it in between the armor.
Yeah.
But
And you can customize it pretty, I mean, right-handed, left-handed, random, pauses, how many
nice.
rounds. It's a pretty good site, I think.
There is a. I'll see if I can find it and send it to you. It's a poster that's basically got 31 days of cutting drills for using the Meyer Cross, and basically it's um, each day you do something slightly different, but you're adding more on. So you're adding more repetitions or something like that. And it's like one day you're doing a complete cut through where you're cutting from upper corner quadrant 1 to lower quadrant 4. And then
Okay.
other days you are cutting only to the half point and then coming back out. So that's a nice thing about it as well, because you for those who don't know, so most fighting styles, you're dividing the body up into different sections, and the head's got 4 quadrants, the body's got 4 quadrants, whatever.
Yep.
So the Meyer cross is a way of taking where you're taking your sword thrust or your sword cut in this case, coming all the way through, coming back up, coming down and up, coming back down. And then you do that, but you start in a different quadrant each time, doing the same kinds of cuts to work with the physicality of the sword and things like that. It's a little more difficult to do it with a one-handed sword than a two-handed sword when you are going
Yeah.
through all of that. And that's simply because with a two-handed sword, you have easier stopping power because with a two-handed sword, you're basically just working a lever.
Yeah. It's true.
So I mean, all you're doing is you're moving this, and you're couple inches of movement. You have a lot of movement, with the tip of your blade and things like that. It's a wonderful, beautiful thing, and um, you when you're working a lever like that, you can stop on a dime and
Oh yeah.
redirect. And
Yeah.
um, some people get a little perturbed when all of a sudden, something that they thought was coming as an uppercut has now become an undercut.
Yeah. And Sarah had a question, but it was very well answered. So if you have a small space to work with, you use a shorter weapon. I don't have a whole lot of space in this room, but I still.
There are some trainers out there that. So let me go ahead and cut off my virtual background so I can actually show the weapon here. So, pulling out my trainer. So there are some trainers out there that you'll have your full-size hilt and pommel, but you'll
Yep.
have like this much blade, and then you'll have a block here that's maybe another 5-6 inches or so that is going to be basically the weight of the rest of the weapon, so that your weapon would still have the
Yep.
same center of gravity and everything, the same tipping point, but you can actually use that in a much, much smaller space. Another thing is, to quote my favorite swordmaster, um, find your fight, fight in your space, find what works best for you. And if anyone who's not read his books, that'd be Nick, our own Nicholas Tucker. But it's you can start out with a dowel rod. You can start off with a broom. You can start off with a fly swatter or a spatula.
Yep.
Anything, because what you're wanting to do first is you're at least wanting to get the movement in.
Yep.
Once you get the movement in and get your body real, used to doing certain things, then you can go ahead and add more to it. Um,
Yep.
I've been morbidly obese the majority of my life, and one of the things when I start trying to get back into shape, when I fall off the wagon, sometimes quite literally,
Hmm.
is you start small. You start with just basic movements, and then maybe you pick up a can of vegetables to add a little bit of weight, or a bottle of water, or whatever, and then you just slowly add on to that with just small increments, because improvement is improvement. It doesn't have to be every time you do it, you are just progressing by miles and miles and miles.
No.
You're not learning anything when you're progressing that fast. When you have that plateau, that's when you learn, okay, maybe I need to do this, or maybe I need to do that. You learn how to adjust things for your own physicality.
Yeah. This one's always been a fun one for people. So if you could learn one other weapon from anywhere in the world, what would you choose?
Kopesh.
That was pretty instantaneous. All right.
It is the bastard love child of an axe and a sword.
True.
Kopesh. In fact, I'm eyeing one on wooden swords using Nick's affiliate link
Yep.
to go ahead and get myself as a trainer.
Yeah, that's probably a good place to go. I mean, I have a couple of Deerhorn knife trainers from there, and even though I'm not currently using them for anything, they're solid, they're nice. So
yeah, they look good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kopesh definitely. Um, I like the physicality and the movements that I have seen from people using scimitar adjacent weapons. But of course, scimitar is vastly um, over exemplified in Dungeons and Dragons because of a certain character from R.A. Salvatore's
Yep.
wheelhouse, who is um, a dark-skinned golden child.
Yeah.
He is as Mary Sue as you can get.
So now, if you could fight one fictional person, who would you pick and why?
Um, all right, this one I actually have to go to my notes for. Because unfortunately, oh, wrong button. Uh, it's not just a single um, character. It's if we're looking at again Mr. Salvatore's
Yeah.
works, a lot of people would go with Dred Stewart,
Yeah.
but actually I would prefer um, fighting either Artemis or Wolfgar.
Okay.
Um, just because they're well, Wolfgar, just calls to my Viking blood.
Yeah.
The barbarian that he is, and he's just a great one. Um, but Artemis, he doesn't fight fair. Um, it's his idea of a fair fight is one that he survives.
Yeah.
Um, and I think fighting someone like that would just push
Oh yeah.
um my boundaries and stuff like that. Um, the other answer is um so many characters it's not even funny, but it's still the same series at least. Um, for different reasons, going in the Wheel of Time series, um, Rand, Matt, and Perrin. I would like to practice and spar with each of them, um, because they each call to my heart in different ways. Um,
Yeah.
I would also like to you know take on Tom. I think that would be a um, fun battle, and of course, um, the two biggest um, things to go against in the Wheel of Time series that you're surely going to um, be sore after if you manage to survive is fighting Mr. Alan Mandragoran and or any member of the Aiel.
All right. So, last question, and this is kind of more of a philosophical question, if you want to look at it that way. But how would you personally improve martial arts for bigger people like yourself worldwide?
Harkening back to what I mentioned before, and pardon me, reminding people of Nick's philosophy of finding one's fight,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
You learn something new every time you touch your blade or your practice weapon or what have you.
Yeah.
Or, if you're using a mass weapon, your weapon and not necessarily a blade. But anyways, every time you are working with your style, your chosen form and everything, you should be learning something new. And you should be pushing your boundary a little bit further. It doesn't have to, again, be a mile. You know what? I'm going to go out and spar for 5 minutes today. Okay, tomorrow, make it 5 minutes and 10 seconds. The next day, 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Just push that boundary just a little bit. And before you know it, you are going to be a mile down the road and you're not going to realize it, and you're less likely to fall to hubris that way.
Yeah.
Because if everything comes to you so easy, you're going to be so cocky, you're going to go into something and someone's going to be better than you finally, and the lesson you learn might cost you more than you were willing to pay.
Yep.
If you harken back to the old days, it could cost you your life. Um, I'm probably going to butcher his name. I believe it was Miyamoto Musashi,
Mm-hmm.
the individual that was over 500 duels,
It
532
was, it
duels,
was a
or
lot.
something like that. And the author of the Book of the Five Rings, um,
Yep.
he didn't really sit on his laurels. He's another one I would like to, just because I would love to learn from him.
Oh yeah.
And again, matches. Um, he'd probably hand me my ass inside 10 seconds, but still. Hopefully, it won't be with a sword carved out of an oar. I will learn how to speak here
Yep.
eventually. It's not like I do it for a living. But it's you've always had to seek improvement. You can't just go, I am at the peak. There is nothing to go further.
No.
You can still go further somehow. You can work on your endurance. You can work on your speed. You can work on another weapon. You can work on another style. Style.
Yeah.
So there's always all of that, and trying to condense all that and I've gone far afield and I've squirreled way off topic, but trying to condense all that down to you're never going to stop learning. The second you stop learning is when you stop dying or start dying,
Yes.
and as long as you're pushing little by little, and you're not trying to run before you can walk. And then when you do finally run, realize there's a point in time you need to slow down or stop or you're just going to get so tuckered out and tired out, you're just going to keel over. And again, once you push yourself too far and you have that pain, you know, um, that's when you're like, well, the last time I did that hurt. I don't want to do that again.
Hmm.
The fastest way that the human brain learns is through negative reinforcement through pain. We
Yeah.
learn a lot faster touching that hot pan. Hey, I don't want to do that. Than your mom telling you 15 times, Richie, don't touch the hot pan. So, it just, taking the smaller steps, those smaller chunks, digesting, just watching, just getting the feel for it, realizing you don't have to match what you're seeing on TV
No.
or movies or DVDs or even in the old wood carvings and stuff like that, 100%. My fat ass cannot get down into the proper guards like you see in the wood cuttings. My body just can't handle it. I
No.
don't have that flexibility. I'm not dead yet. There's the chance that I can get that flexibility at some point in time.
Maybe.
But right now, it just not something I can achieve at this moment. So I can achieve something as close as I can. Exactly.
And this is very
But yeah,
pushing too far too much could very well lay you out. Yeah.
if you're hurting, you're not going to want to go back to it. So uncomfortable is maybe as far as you want to take it. Discomfort, you definitely want to get to the range where things are a discomfort. Maybe not necessarily all the way to uncomfortable, but you don't want to just stay comfortable because you're not going to improve.
Yeah.
You need to get into that discomfort level. It's like when you're stretching. If you're like, okay, I've stretched. No, you got to bring it forth a little bit further until you're like, okay, this doesn't hurt, but it's a slight level of discomfort. We'll hold it here and then come back. And then you do that a few times and you realize, oh, hey, I can get another inch over than I was able to get before.
Yeah. Because Foxy took the Tai Chi class at our local college. They gave you a link to a YouTube video of a gold medalist performing the Yang 24 style. And under the link, it said, do not try to be this good in the beginning. You can't. You're just starting. Don't use this as your goal because you're not going to get there in one semester. It's not going to happen.
Well, it's fine for that to be the goal, but you have to realize when you set goals, you've got to set it right. So you have your final destination in mind. So my final destination is 10 miles away. Okay. Where is the 5 mile point? Okay, the 5 mile point is this. Okay, so I can probably accomplish this in X amount of time. So it'll be this amount of time before I can get to that even farther goal of that 10 miles. And then you look at that 5 miles and you go, okay, where is the 4, the 3, the 2, and the 1 mile mark? And those become your goalposts. Those are what you're aiming for. Because if you're looking at those small increments, you are going to be able to progress to them faster, and you're going to have that dopamine building up inside your brain for, I completed something. I got something done.
Yeah.
Rock on. And that's going to build you to make the next step, to take the next step, to take the next step. If you just look at that 10-mile marker and go, I'm going to get there, and I'm going to get there, and you put out an unreasonable amount of time, that time's going to pass. you're not going to be there, and you're going to be miserable because you weren't keeping tabs of all these small things that you've gone along and done on the way. Where someone else can come along next to you and go, do you realize you got this done, this done, this done, this done, this done, and this done? You did this many things. Don't be sad because you didn't get there. You got to here. There's someone who shall remain named Misty Asplund, my loving and beautiful wife, who has that problem all the time. She doesn't look at the smaller things that she's accomplished, and she doesn't bother writing those things down, but she gets all this other stuff done, and then she's like, but I didn't get this done in the day. Honey, you wrote 15 things that take an hour each on your to-do list for the day for chores. You got 10 of them done. That's why you're tired and you feel like you've been beaten with a baseball bat.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all my questions, and we're over the hour, so thank you for being an awesome guest. It was very informative.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure being here.
And I honestly have no idea what I'm going to do next week. So we'll just play it by ear since it'll be shortly after Christmas. I might take the day off. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, it's the time of year, and you're still hacking and coughing. I mean, taking an extra week to rest the voice and, get the ball rolling and start prepping for your ideas for what you want to do next year. Again, it's, that's one other thing. Now that I think about it, that I would love to make sure gets put into any type of curriculum for anyone. It doesn't have to be, people with my physical limitations and such, is remembering self-care. Self-care being physical, self-care being mental, emotional, all of it. If you come into something in the wrong state, either body, mind, or spirit, you are not going to get out of it what you're looking to get out of it. You are possibly going to hurt yourself, or if you are working with another individual, what I worry about more than anything else would be hurting someone else. Superman gives a speech. I don't remember what issue of comic it was in, but it was a speech going against Darkseid. And he talks about living in a cardboard world. Being taller, being wider. It's really easy for me to accidentally turn around and knock someone on their ass.
Yeah.
So I am scared to death of hurting someone else, unintentionally. And because of temper issues I had when I was younger, I'm even more frightened of hurting someone else on purpose.
Yeah.
So, self-care is another thing that really needs to be wrapped into the arts.
Yes.
No matter where you stand, because again, you can hurt yourself, you can hurt someone else.
And you don't want to do that. So anybody know any women or female presenting people that want to come on here for next month, get a hold of me and we'll work something out. But I think that's a good point to end on for tonight. So, night, everybody.
Take it away.